There is, within the fabric of human experience, a reality that transcends time and space, a psychic thread that binds one soul to another in a manner that is inexplicable to the rational mind. This thread is not forged by convenience nor proximity, but by something far older and more enigmatic, the self's yearning for completion. When two individuals feel drawn to each other beyond all logic, we must ask not why, but what within them calls to be united. The soul recognizes itself in the other, and this recognition is beyond the veil of persona. From the standpoint of analytical psychology, such unions emerge from the unconscious, often archetypal in nature. The image of the anima and animus speaks to this. Each individual, in their journey toward individuation, must integrate the inner counterpart. Yet sometimes, this inner image projects outward onto another person. The danger lies in mistaking projection for truth, but the beauty is this: if the projection survives disillusionment, love may truly begin. It is a deep paradox. What is most personal is often most universal. When two people are truly destined, it is not merely their egos that long for each other, it is the entire architecture of their unconscious, their archetypes, their inherited patterns. These souls may drift apart as the psyche demands individual growth, but if they are truly meant to meet again, the unconscious will conspire in subtle ways to reunite them. Time and distance are but illusions to the self, whose nature is eternal. One might forget the name, the face, even the voice of the beloved, but the psychic imprint remains. And when the moment is right, when both have descended into the depths of their own darkness and risen anew, souls will find each other not as they were, but as they have become. Much of what we call love is not born in the conscious mind, but in the depths of the unconscious. We are drawn to others not merely because they make us laugh or share our interests, but because they represent something unknown, perhaps even something we ourselves have lost. The soul seeks wholeness, and it often finds it through what Jung called the other, the one who embodies the hidden aspects of the psyche. This other is not a fantasy, is an archetypal image deeply rooted in our collective unconscious. A man may fall deeply for a woman not only because of her personality, but because she stirs the anima within him, his inner feminine. Likewise, a woman may be captivated by a man who awakens her inner animus. This is not mere infatuation, it is the soul reaching for its missing pieces. True destiny lies not in chance encounters, but in unconscious necessity. When two people are destined, it is because their unconscious processes are aligned. Their dreams, their symbols, their myths echo each other. Even before they speak, their souls recognize a resonance. It is not the outer world that calls them together, it is the inner one. And so, attraction is not always a sign of surface compatibility. Sometimes it is a sumonsa demand from the self to grow. The person who most disturbs us may also be the one who most completes us. And if the soul feels that completion lies in another, it will not rest until it has pursued that path. One of the great tragedies and paradoxes of love is that separation is often necessary for union. When souls are deeply entwined, the temptation is to merge completely, to lose oneself in the other. But true union demands that each individual first become whole on their own. It is through separation that the work of individuation begins. Individuation is not about isolation. It is about becoming what one is. The soul may be destined for another, but first it must become worthy of its own destiny. This means descending into the unconscious, confronting the shadow, and embracing the unlived life. One cannot truly love another until one has faced the depths of one's own soul. When two people part, it may seem like failure, but it is often the unconscious creating space for growth. Just as the seed must break to become a tree, the ego must break to allow the self to emerge. In this time apart, the souls work in silence, preparing for the moment they might one day meet again, not as halves, but as wholes. Thus, we must learn to see distance not as loss, but as transformation. What appears as an end may in truth be a beginning. The river does not mourn the mountain, it flows onward, knowing that it may return by another path. And so it is with destined soul-seek journey, a part is part of a greater circle. In my own studies, I have observed a phenomenon I called synchronicity, the meaningful coincidence. These are not random happenings, but events that echo a deeper order. When souls are destined, the universe seems to whisper, aligning time and space in improbable ways to bring them together again. You may find that long after separation, a song, a dream, or a chance meeting reopens the connection. This is not sentimentality, it is the unconscious manifesting through external reality. The psyche is not confined to the brain, it is woven into the cosmos. What it deeply desires, it will seek through every available means. And when such souls meet again, it is as though time collapses, not because the past is restored, but because the eternal now is revealed. You are not meeting who they were, you are meeting who they have become, and you are meeting them as who you have become. This is the true miracle, not that love returns, but that it returns anew. We must learn to read the signs, not with superstition, but with reverence. If two souls find their way back to each other after chaos, change, and growth, it is not luck. It is destiny, activated through the deepest layers of the unconscious, brought forth into the world by the unseen currents of meaning. There exists within the collective unconscious a profound archetype, the eternal return. This is not simply the cycle of seasons or the revolution of starset, is the soul's impulse to revisit that which it has left incomplete. Love, too, follows this archetypal rhythm. What is left unresolved in the psyche does not vanish, it returns, again and again, until it is made whole. When two souls are destined, their separation is not the end, but a movement within a larger cycle. The pattern repeats, not to torment, but to heal. We meet again to finish what was started, not always in the same form, but with the same inner echo. It is the psyche's way of restoring balance, of seeking the union it once glimpsed but could not sustain. This return is often mysterious. It may come unbidden, through a letter, a memory, a meeting in a crowded place. Yet behind each of these moments lies the deeper rhythm of the soul's journey. The ego may resist, may even forget, but the self remembers, and what the self remembers, it draws back into the orbit of one's life. We must approach these moments not with control, but with humility. They are not of our making, but of something greater, a movement of the soul through the deep channels of fate. If a person re-enters your life after transformation, it is not by chance. It is the archetype calling you to complete the circle. Every soul carries a shadow, the rejected, feared, or unlived parts of the psyche. And when two people come together, they do not meet in light alone. They meet also in darkness. Often, what repels us in the other is what we refuse to see in ourselves. Love, then, is not merely a delight, it is a mirror. When souls are truly destined, they provoke each other's shadows. This is not cruelty, it is opportunity. One cannot become whole without confronting the darkness within, and sometimes only love has the power to reveal it. In this way, our deepest connections are also our greatest trials. Separation often occurs because the shadow becomes too painful to bear. The projections collapse, and the real person emerges wounded, imperfect, human. Yet this is precisely where true intimacy begins. Not in the ideal, but in the real. If love can withstand the unveiling of the shadow, it has passed through the crucible of transformation. When these souls meet again after time, reflection, and self-confrontation, it is no longer shadow meeting shadow, it is self meeting self. And in this space, love is no longer the flight from pain, but the embrace of totality. It is here that the sacred begins. In the quiet hours of sleep, when the ego loosens its grip, the soul speaks. Dreams are the voice of the unconscious, often carrying messages that the waking mind cannot grasp. When two souls are destined, they often appear in each other's dreams not merely as memories, but as symbols. One may dream of the other in moments of change, in times of sorrow, or just before a new chapter begins. These dreams are not hallucinations, they are communications from the depths. The psyche seeks connection, and when reality denies it, dreams provide the bridge. It is in dreams that the true nature of the bond is often revealed. You may see the other not as they are in life, but as they are in essence, wounded, radiant, symbolic. These images are not to be analyzed too quickly. They must be held with reverence, for they are fragments of a greater whole, whispering of unfinished soul work. When a dream returns, or when the same soul visits again in the night, it is worth asking, what is being asked of me now? What am I being called to complete, release, or reclaim? If the dreams persist, the bond persists. And if the bond persists, destiny is not yet done. Before we can reunite with another, we must first reconcile the parts within ourselves. Jung called this the konjunktiothe, sacred inner marriage of opposites. Only when the inner masculine and feminine are harmonized can we truly meet another soul without confusion, projection, or dependence. The problem with most unions is that they are not unions at all. They are mutual needs, masquerading as love. But destined souls do not meet to complete each other. They meet to witness each other's completion. They do not cling, they reflect. And this reflection is only possible when each has done the inner work. This does not mean perfection, it means integration. When I have met my own shadow, honored my own inner life, and listened to the call of my own soul, then I can approach another, not as a savior, but as a companion. Love, then, is not rescue, it is recognition. And if the souls are truly meant, this inner work will not separate them, but prepare them. The more they become themselves, the more clearly they see the other. And when they meet again, it is not with hunger but with reverence, not to take but to share. We often misunderstand love because we speak of it too literally, but love is symbolic. Every encounter, every gesture, every silence between two people carries layers of meaning. What appears as coincidence may be fate. What seems like distance may be initiation. To understand love between destined souls, we must think in images. Love is the bridge between conscious and unconscious, between time and eternity. The beloved is not merely a person, they are a symbol of something your soul longs for, and this longing is what transforms. Symbols do not obey logic. They speak through poetry, myth, dream, and intuition. To truly understand a bond of destiny, one must let go of analysis and enter into contemplation. Why does a certain voice stir the heart? Why does a certain absence ache like memory? These are not logical questions, they are symbolic ones. If you find yourself returning to a person in thought, in dream, in synchronicity, it is because they are a symbol of something your soul cannot forget. And until you uncover what that is, they will remain part of your psychic landscape. To love them, then, is to embark on a quest not to possess, but to understand. There is a temptation, especially in matters of love, to leave doors half open to hope, to wait, to wonder. Yet for two souls to truly reunite in a meaningful way, there must be a period of closure. Not the closure of indifference, but the closure of understanding. One must first mourn the past before welcoming the future. The psyche cannot carry the burden of unfinished emotion indefinitely. What is repressed festers, what is consciously grieved is transformed. To complete a cycle of separation is to honor what was, to see it clearly, and to release the projections that no longer serve. Only then can a real connection untainted by fantasy emerge. Closure does not mean forgetting. On the contrary, it means remembering with clarity. It means recognizing the beauty and the suffering and accepting both as necessary. The self does not discard the past, it integrates it, and when integration occurs, the space is made ready for something new, or perhaps something reborn. Thus, when souls meet again, it should not be out of longing alone, but out of readiness. If one has truly closed the previous chapter not with bitterness, but with wisdom, then what reopens will be a different book entirely. The characters may be familiar, but the story will be new. There is a moment, subtle yet profound, when one looks into the eyes of another and feels not excitement, but remembrance. It is not the thrill of novelty, but the quiet certainty of having known someone long before time kept records. This is not merely emotion, it is a soul event. Recognition of the soul is not loud, it does not demand or insist, it simply is. One feels seen in a way that transcends personality. One's flaws are not judged, one's silence is understood. It is as though the unconscious of both individuals has touched, and in that contact, something ancient has stirred. Such recognition can be terrifying, for in that moment, all defenses become transparent. One cannot hide behind persona or performance. The other sees you not as the world does, but as the self does. And when this happens between two people, the pull is magnetic, inexplicable, and deeply transformative. If two souls are destined, this recognition is inevitable. It may be obscured by pain or time, but it cannot be erased. The soul remembers what the ego forgets. And when the moment is right, the veil lifts, and the self once more sees its counterpart not as fantasy, but as truth. It is tempting to believe that destiny requires no effort, that if two people are meant, they will find each other effortlessly. But this belief is naive. Destiny is not a script, it is a potential, and that potential must be chosen again and again through conscious participation. Free will and fate are not enemies. They are partners in the process of becoming. The soul may be destined for another, but the ego must still choose, must still suffer, must still surrender. The return of a destined soul is not a gift alone, it is a challenge. It demands awareness, courage, and deep responsibility. When you meet someone you are destined for, the question is not simply, will it happen, but rather, am I ready for what it asks of me? Love of this nature asks not for comfort, but for transformation. It asks for you to become someone worthy of such a bond, not through perfection, but through depth. Therefore, destiny is not passive, it is a path, and the soul must walk it. If the path leads back to another soul, it is not because it was easy, but because it was chosen despite fear, despite wounds, despite uncertainty. And in that choice lies the true power of love. Between the first meeting and the final reunion, there is often a period of great solitude. This is not punishment, it is preparation. For the soul cannot be truly joined with another until it has learned to stand alone. This solitude is the womb of transformation. In solitude, we confront the very essence of who we are. Without the distraction of another, we meet our fears, our unlived desires, our forgotten dreams. We discover what we are outside of roles and attachments, and it is in this sacred space that the soul becomes ripe for union, not as a child needing comfort, but as an adult bearing light. This loneliness may be bitter, it may feel like abandonment or exile, but the soul knows. It knows that something is being forged in this silence, something that cannot be rushed. Just as the night prepares the dawn, solitude prepares the reunion. The deeper the stillness, the stronger the return. When you emerge from this solitude, you will not be the same. You will have tasted the depths, and if the other has done the same, then your meeting will not be a repetition, but a revelation. Two souls, tempered by solitude, do not cling. They stand side by side whole, aware, free. When two souls that are destined have completed the inner work, when they have faced the shadow, embraced solitude, and chosen love, consciously then, the reunion becomes not merely a return, but a rebirth. It is no longer the echo of the past. It is the creation of something eternal. This reunion is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, steady, full of knowing. The old projections have died. What remains is the truth. You see the other not as your savior or mirror, but as a soul walking beside you, bearing their own wounds, their own light, their own mystery. In this space, love is not possession, it is presence. It is the ability to sit in silence together, to speak without words, to hold each other without needing to fix or change. This is the mature union, the alchemical marriage. The self has found its counterpart not to complete it, but to accompany it. If two souls are truly destined, their reunion will not erase the pain of the past, but it will redeem it. Every wound will be seen as preparation, every loss as initiation. And in that sacred embrace, time dissolves, and only one thing remains: the eternal now. In the end, love is not the destination, it is the path. The soul that seeks another does so not to escape itself, but to deepen into itself. Love, when true, is the fire that burns away illusion, the mirror that reflects the self, the wound that teaches compassion. Individuation, the becoming of the self, is not a solitary journey. It is a dance between solitude and union. The destined soul is not your conclusion. They are your companion in the great work of becoming whole. And through this companionship, both are transformed. Every true love leads you back to yourself, not the self of the ego, but the self that is eternal, archetypal, divine. And if the soul returns to you, it is not merely for comfort, but for growth, for challenge, for the sacred unfolding of who you are meant to be. So trust the journey, trust the separations, the silences, the returns. If two souls are truly destined, they will always find their way back not to who they were, but to who they have become. And in that meeting, not even death can divide them. Every true relationship is an alchemical vesela vas hermeticumen, which transformation occurs. When two souls encounter one another in authenticity and intensity, they do not remain the same. Something is dissolved. Something is reborn. The fire of union does not merely warm, it purifies. In the ancient language of alchemy, the union of opposites coniunctio oppositorum was the key to creating gold. This gold was never merely physical, it was psychological, it was the awakened soul. And so, too, with destined love. Its purpose is not comfort but transfiguration. It asks that both partners face the death of who they thought they were. This alchemical process is not without suffering. One must pass through nigredoth, blackening, the chaos, the collapse. In love, this is the moment of confusion, projection, and ego death. But if endured, it leads to albedo illumination and, ultimately, rubidoth, fullness of heart, the wholeness of union. Therefore, when a soul returns, it is not the same soul. It has passed through the fire. And if you, too, have endured your own descent and rising, then your union will no longer be bound by illusion. It will be gold not of the world, but of the spirit. Our modern view of love is often confined to the personal, the historical. We ask, did they treat me well? Were we compatible? But the soul remembers more than biography. It remembers patterns, archetypes, wounds from other times and realms. It remembers not just this life, but the resonance of many. This does not mean that we are bound by past lives or fated to repeat old stories. Rather, It means that our love stories are never just our own. They echo myths, symbols, ancestral dreams. When two souls return to one another, it is often because something ancient seeks resolution through them. In this sense, we become participants in a deeper story. The way you love, the way you forgive, the way you return these, become sacred acts that heal not only the self, but the field of humanity. Your bond, if lived consciously, becomes a ritual of wholeness. So when someone returns to your life with deep psychic resonance, do not ask only, "What happened to us?" but "What is this story asking of me now?" Because in that question lies the key not only to personal healing, but to collective redemption. Not all communication takes the form of words. Between two destined souls, silence itself becomes a language. The pause between meetings, the space between texts, the long gaps in time, these are not voids, but containers. Within them, much is said without being spoken. True soul connection does not require constant contact. It does not fear distance. It trusts the deeper rhythm. Often, in these silences, the most significant growth occurs. The absence of the other becomes a mirror in which you see yourself more clearly. The longing becomes a teacher, the waiting becomes a purification. The ego fears silence, for it equates it with abandonment, but the self understands. It knows that silence is sometimes the only path through which transformation can happen. And if the bond is real life, it is archetypal, it will not wither in silence, it will ripen. When the silence finally ends and contact resumes, it will not be as if nothing happened, it will be as if everything happened, because the soul does not sleep in the in-between. It dreams, it works, and when it returns, it brings with it a new layer of truth. When two souls are reunited by destiny, their purpose is rarely confined to one another. The energy between them is not private, it is generative. It spills outward. It seeks to serve life itself. This is the final truth of soul connection. It is not only for healing, but for creation. Such unions are called to serve the self, not the ego self, but the greater totality of being. These pairs often become vessels through which something sacred is expressed. Art, healing, teaching, revolution, compassion. Their love is not isolated in romanticism, it is a force that blesses others. This shared service may take many forms, and it does not always look dramatic. Sometimes, the simple act of loving with depth and presence becomes a beacon for others. Sometimes, it is the way you forgive, the way you walk away, or the way you return that changes the lives of those around you. So, if you find yourself standing again beside the soul you once lost, ask not only, "How have we changed?" but "What are we being asked to bring into the world?" For the highest love is never just for itself. It becomes a light that reaches far beyond the lover sand into eternity.